Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business, we've got you covered. Good afternoon, everybody. This is your host, Adriana, and you are listening to Negotiating Happiness on 107.7 and 105.3 on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, airing live in the beautiful city of New Orleans. Everybody, just grab your lunch, grab your coffee, and let's dive into today's episode. I am super excited to be here with Edie. Hello, Edie. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, good. Thanks. There was a little bit of a lag there. I'm so excited to have you on today. Today we're talking about mastering stress and burnout. And as you know, as humans, we've all gone through it, but especially if you are an entrepreneur, you know exactly what this means for your work-life balance. So today we are introducing Edie and her business, and her business is Edie Gudaitis Wellness. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that totally wrong. Please educate us on how to pronounce that.
It is Gudaitis, yeah.
Gudaitis. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. So who is Edie? Edie is the CEO and founder of Edie Gudaitis Wellness. She's a communicator, connector, and community builder. Her heart-centered why is to inspire, empower, and uplift people to live their most authentic life where they feel balanced and at ease in their body, mind, and soul. As a certified yoga, breathwork, and meditation facilitator and best-selling author and coach, some of her favorite ways to support clients include wellness retreats, workshops, speaking about stress, change and resilience, writing, and via her new podcast, the Stress DETOX Podcast. And I've included some links in our description there to see what is on the horizon for Edie. So check them out. She's got a Mexico retreat coming up, which if you've listened to some of our other episodes, you know that I'm a big fan of Mexico. So go check it out. And she's also got her book link in there. I cannot wait to sit and dissect and talk all about stress, Edie. So take it away. What should we tackle first?
Stress is such a big topic. Stress really can impact all areas of our life. And right now we're living in such a fast-paced society, paired with the entrepreneurship journey of wearing all of the hats. It can be really overwhelming.
All of them.
Yeah, literally all of them. And it can just be really overwhelming at times as to where to focus our energy, when to pause and really refill our own cup, and just use practices that are so simple and quick, but not like fast paced, but there's something that we can use and access within ourselves quickly to then like refocus and keep moving forward. Otherwise, what can happen with stress is we get into an anxious thought pattern, and that just creates a whole downward loop, and everything is then spinning out of control. Our focus goes out the window, our productivity goes out the window. We can shift into like a fight and flight state or a freeze state and fully shut down. And it becomes a lot more challenging to actually complete the tasks that at one point we were excited about, and to then maybe meet different deadlines or goals that we have for ourselves in our business. So learning how to really connect with ourselves and to access tools that literally are free within us can be really, really powerful, so that when different curveballs happen, instead of reacting to them, we're able to pause and breathe and re-expand our awareness to then choose a solution that's a lot more in line with the end outcome that we have in mind.
Right. So I guess tell us a little bit about the types of clients that you've got that, you work with and the kind of challenges. I want to put it out there to see if anybody can relate, and especially if they are in the entrepreneurial sphere. So tell us a little bit about the kinds of clients that you work with.
Yeah, so I work with clients in a one-on-one capacity as well as in group capacity. And my clients range from entrepreneurs to corporate focus to the healthcare system to the education system. So it really is like the full spectrum. And something that is commonly shared, I'd say across the board, is just having lack of awareness of what is available to us. And something as simple as taking a few moments every morning to just breathe 5 deep breaths consciously, being fully present to them, and then doing that again in the middle of the day and doing that again at the end of the day can be really, really powerful for offering grounding. Some of the clients that I work with are navigating major stressors of being in like the medical field and working in the emergency room or working in hospice or working in a doctor office capacity. And then some of the clients are entrepreneurs where they're building a business, they're scaling, they're speaking with investors, they're getting more financial backing that way. And so there are different pressures and expectations at play. And really it comes down to how are we showing up through it all? And what are we remembering about our own power and our own truth that's going to guide us forward through all of the different opinions we might receive, through all the judgments we might have about ourselves, or any of the self-doubt that might creep up as we're blazing our own trail forward in entrepreneurship. So having tools like the breath or a simple body scan to just notice, like right now, if I'm writing an email to someone and it's a tight deadline, am I like tight? Is everything crunched? Am I holding my breath, or am I relaxed and actually present to the experience as I respond and take the next step? So having check-ins can be really, really powerful, again, to bring us back to presence, to bring us back to our center, which is our place of power and our place of then creative ideas that allows us to move forward and make impact that we want to make. Does that answer your question?
Right. And yeah, no, it completely does. And I can relate to a lot of it, right? Especially when there are, client interactions or deadlines. You not only feel mentally stressed, you're physically stressed as well. And sometimes we don't know how to assess that, right? And for somebody that, I'm sure you have experience with this, but for somebody that has ADHD, right? Sometimes I feel like I can mix the two up of what's happening. Am I just, having racing thoughts, or am I really experiencing stress, and how do I kind of complete the cycle of that so I can get over it? So what are some of the ways that people don't think that stress creeps up on them, but they do? What are tell us some
Yeah.
of the tricks to watch out for.
Yeah. So how the stress cycle works, just at a high level, we have our level of awareness. Let's say we're just like walking. I don't know. I like to use this example. We're walking in a meadow. So just imagine you're walking in a meadow and it's a beautiful sunny day and you're just happy and walking along, taking in the scenery. And then you see a bear. And all of a sudden your response spikes because you're on high alert. There's a potential threat and you need to make sure that you're safe. And then you get closer to the bear, you realize the bear is actually not a bear, it's a rock. And you're like, oh, okay, cool, I'm actually fine. And then you'll feel your body start to chill. So it's like you get that adrenaline rush that spikes up and then it starts to come down and you come back to what's called homeostasis, back to your like middle ground. And that doesn't have to happen just when we're like in a meadow and think we see a bear. That same response is happening when we're thinking, when we're just walking
Right.
around in the everyday world. So if we're like creating something new and we're really excited, but then we see something on Instagram and we see that someone else has done it. And then we get into our head of like, well, who am I to do that? I don't know what I'm doing. They did it so much better than me. What's the point? And then we just spiral. All of those thoughts that are like self-doubt and judgment and negativity, all of that is then firing in our brain. I'm not enough, which is translating to like, I'm being chased by a bear. I'm being chased by a bear. So all of the negative thoughts are literally spiking this similar reaction in the body. And the more we succumb to the fear, the more we're having these little shots of adrenaline moving through the body that are keeping us then in this state of like high alert, fight and flight, and like protect defense mode, which is totally creating tunnel vision. So then we're not able to see, okay, cool, they've done it. That's amazing. They're showing me what's possible. So how am I going to create and share this with the world? Because I'm totally different. And so it can get really tricky. Mindset is like, I would say number one, with recognizing it when we tune into the body. Our body is often the quickest way in because we can notice, oh, wow, my shoulders are up here and I'm not breathing. And then that's an indicator, okay, let's soften the shoulders, deepen the breath. And what the heck am I thinking right now? Oh, my thoughts are like way over here. So let's come back to presence again. And like, what is actually a productive, creative, truthful thought? And so that's a really sneaky way that stress creeps up. And that over time, when we have these constant thoughts, and then with that, we're in an environment where there's so much information. And then with that, we're in an environment where maybe when we were kids, there was a lot of turbulence and we didn't have tools, we didn't have resources to properly express what we were feeling if we felt scared. So then we've had these different masks or shields that we've taken on to protect ourselves in our environment, on top of then navigating life and all of these other everyday things, and then our thoughts on top of that. So then that can compound, and that creates more of what a lot of the world is navigating, which is chronic stress, which is where we're just constantly living in this state. And we don't realize it till maybe we go on a yoga retreat. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm going to just chill for a whole afternoon, or I'm going to go to a yoga class and like chill for 5 minutes in the ending posture of Savasana. And wow, I didn't realize I was so wound up because now I feel so relaxed.
You know, the irony of it is that when you're stressed out and you're talking about, I'm going to chill out for the rest of the afternoon, we're most likely stressed out about time. And that never occurs to me to just say, I'm so stressed out, I just need to chill. My brain goes, I'm so stressed out, I just need to push through and do all of the things so I can stop being stressed. And it's such a counterintuitive response to what actually needs to happen. And I'm sure lots of people can relate to this.
Well, and totally as well, like if you think about people-pleasing tendencies, and again, if we go back to like childhood and navigating life and being accepted and having that sense of approval and feeling loved and like we belong, like all of those things are so integral then to that idea of pushing through the to-do list and just doing the next thing. And like, I'm totally, I used to be the biggest people pleaser, and I used to ignore every signal of my body. And that's why I had burnout and had so many things in the past that I've navigated, because I just was like, nope, love you, body, keep going. And it's like, we have to start to check ourselves. Like I have a phrase, it's like, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because I've learned the hard way a few too many times. And it's just like, how can we recognize, okay, yes, this is my to-do list, and actually I do have deadlines. So all of these things are priorities, but can I just take 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes and go sit on a park bench in the sun, go walk around the block for 5 minutes, sit down on my couch and close my eyes and just focus on my breathing for 5 minutes. Like one of my favorite tools, I literally did it earlier today, legs up the wall. And I put on a song It's like super meditative for 5 minutes. You can do it with your legs on the couch instead, but it's very down regulating for the nervous system. So when we're locked in fight and flight of the sympathetic response, which is the stress response, doing a posture like legs up the wall or child's pose, even laying on your tummy in prone position, can be really grounding to get us more into the parasympathetic nervous system. And by focusing on deeper breath, and by focusing on scanning awareness through the body or maybe doing gentle tapping, we're also then connecting more with that vagal stimulation of the vagus nerve, which is the brain gut connection that helps us shift from high stress reactivity into more of that flow state, relax, digest, reset. So it's very important to take these little breaks. But it starts with really just cultivating body awareness. And that's why most of the work I do with clients is literally just start to notice your breath. What does your breath feel like? Where do you feel your breath? Do you feel it in your chest? Does it feel really constricted? Does it feel spacious? Do you feel a slow, deep breath, or is it super fast? Start there. And then, okay, what is it like to actually take 5 slow, deep breaths? And your brain is probably going to be like, I don't need to do this. And you're going to do that like 20 times. Bring it back to the moment. Come back to your breath. But that practice over time, we're then tending to our body and we're training ourselves so that when things hit the fan, we can remember, oh, right now I need to breathe. If I just take a couple deep breaths, that's going to help me. Even if it doesn't bring me all the solutions, it's going to at least give me space. So I'm not just moving on autopilot reactivity instead of coming back to the present moment.
I think we have to do a bunch of unlearning because, I mean, we've all heard it, right? When we're just like, okay, take a deep breath. And well, if somebody's in like super stressed out mode and it's not typically helpful to just throw that, reaction at somebody else, especially when you're also visibly like concerned about them and you're not in that state. It's kind of like you're just passing around like jumbled up chaotic energy between one to the other. So I think we have to do a little bit of unlearning of what, movies have done. And I feel like a lot of the times movies and TV shows have made kind of comedy of this whole, okay, take a deep breath. And it's like, no, but here's something really interesting that I just found out a couple of days ago is because you reminded me when you're talking about how to breathe, which is something so basic that we don't think about it. We just do it, right? Because we're conditioned to think about the bigger things, the money that we need to make, the houses we need to have, the going to work and doing all these things. And we forget, like, what's the very first thing that you need to do in order to be able to exist? It's breathe, right? But you reminded me of how I started when we talked about meditation, how to learn how to meditate. And the first thing is like, you have to feel your breathing and how to control it. But here's what I found out, which I thought was really cool. And scientifically, it links us even more. I mean, if you don't believe, mind over matter or like vice versa or whatever, then, that's a whole other conversation or a whole other research project that you need to do. But it just shows how much more connected we are physically, between mind and body at a cellular level, because they did a bunch of studies. And I'm terrible host for not remembering what the study was, where it was from, but I'm sure we can look it up, where they studied brains, and the people who meditated regularly had more waves in their, like, physically the brains looked different than the brains who do not meditate, do not practice any sort of mindfulness activity, where they're a lot more smooth. So I guess the more curvature, the more, form and shape that it takes, the healthier the brain is, because the brain is a muscle, right? So it just kind of goes to show that we have to go back to the basics and unlearn a bunch of things and focus on the step by step. So I guess my next question would be, you're talking to a whole bunch of different, busy people, different schedules, children, work, life, just everything kind of hitting them from everywhere. aside from what you've already mentioned in breathwork, what are some of the tricks that, not tricks, but very practical tips that you can give somebody to say, I'm going to start taking my stress more seriously because I know that stress kills. So how can I start today to make a difference?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that you just said what you said, because it's something I say a lot, and it's so true, and it's hard to hear, but it really is. Like, unmanaged stress, I feel, is the root to so much of the just disease that we see in the world, a lot of the illness. Like, yes, some of it is genetic for sure.
Sure.
And a lot of it too is so related to stress, whether it's environmental stressors or the mental component and not having tools to manage. So, my tools for like go-to tools for everyday life, I honestly, like, yes, number one, notice your breathing. Number two, start to do body scans. It sounds crazy, but just start to scan awareness through your body and notice how you feel. Like, as you drink your cup of coffee, are you just downing your cup of coffee and not even aware of what it tastes like, if it's hot, what the smell is? Or are you able to be present with the cup of coffee so that when you're drinking it, you actually notice the sensation and you notice the experience
Right.
of it? I'm not saying take 10 minutes to drink a cup of coffee. I'm just saying, when you're writing your email and you pause to have a sip, pause long enough to notice, how does this feel? Again, how is my body in this moment? So that's one thing I would suggest. And you can do that when you're brushing your teeth, when you take out the garbage, when you have a shower, while you're washing the dishes. Just take a moment to become more curious to your physical environment, like your body, while you're doing whatever you're doing. That's like number
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Mindfulness really is said to be the pause between the stimulus and the response. So taking that moment to pause can actually give so much more information and insight to yourself as to what is happening and what tool maybe to use next. So if you notice that as you're writing an email and you have a sip of coffee and you're just like, I'm not here, I'm like so stressed, then another tool to use, notice, again, pause. Number one, pause. What are three things that you can see in your environment? So if you look up from your computer, just take a second and notice, what are three things you see in the space you're in? And then what are two things you can hear? What's a sound that's closer to you? What's a sound that's further away? And then from there, what's one thing you can feel? And it might be your breath. It might be sitting on a chair. It might be, if you're outside, feeling a breeze on your skin. And so notice that. That then helps, again, communicate with your body that you are safe in your environment. And if there's something in your environment that is triggering stress, then that's an indicator for you maybe to leave that environment, because that could be adding to what you're feeling right now. So again, it's more information. So that's another tool I would suggest. Another one that's really helpful too is, if you're feeling your brain is super, super busy, do a brain dump. Write it all down. Grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, and just start writing stream of consciousness. Like, whatever is there, get it out. It can be work related, family, fitness, doesn't matter, but like, get it out of your head onto paper so you can see it. And then there's less of it that's jumbled in the mind, taking up what I call mental real estate. So just do that. That tends to help quite a lot as
Right.
well. And then the other part too is, if you notice, like, you're really fixated on the negative and you're really in a space of projecting, then can you take a second, and is there anything, like, yeah, some of that might be true, some of it might be story. So can you write down, like, what are all the facts? What are you putting in there that might not be fact, that's just story, that's made up? Write that down again. Look at it. That helps you so that you're more, what we call in mindfulness, neutral, so that you're not as
Right.
reactive. And then as well with that, then another practice is gratitude. And gratitude is like life-changing. Gratitude really is starting to be thankful for all of the aspects of your life. So again, right now, you can even pause and just think about like, what's one thing you're grateful for? And it could be the sunshine, it could be running water, it could be that you're wearing your favorite watch, like whatever. It doesn't matter. But if you get into that practice of starting to notice, okay, what am I grateful for? Like maybe you have had a massive disagreement with a business partner, or maybe your kids are driving you absolutely bonkers and they're like on a sugar high. Even within that context, what are you grateful for about the partnership you have with your business partner? Like, what is one thing about them that you do really enjoy? Can you come back to that? Can that be your anchor of your why? And with your kiddos, again, even if they're driving you insane, what is something that you're really grateful for that they bring you, like the joy they bring you in your life? It's not discounting that they're still driving you nuts and maybe they've done something that you're not in agreement with, but can you still in that moment see a silver lining so it's not all heavy negative energy? Because that helps shift us out of some of that stress response so that we're able to come back to our center to again create these more aligned choices and show up in our truest self, which is above all what we strive for. So those are a whole bunch of tools.
Right. I appreciate that. And I think a lot of it too can probably be summarized sometimes as be careful how you speak to yourself or what kind of pep talks you give yourself, because, you might be in a crappy mood now and you might say something like, oh man, I'm just lazy, or oh man, I'm just the worst at this. And then your body starts to actually believe it, and that creates more tension. It creates more, and I know it seems silly, but it's kind of like how we used to talk to ourselves when we were kids, right? Where everything is all about big emotions, not knowing how to handle it. We're just bigger kids now. And I find that sometimes logic steps in and sometimes it doesn't, right?
Yeah,
So this is super helpful. Thank you for all of those tools. Yeah.
totally. Yeah. And I love what you just said about like the speaking part, speaking to ourselves. I think that's super, super powerful. Something that I am a big, big, big believer in is the power of affirmation. It's something I've been using in my practice for like a decade, and I always share it with clients. And it can be an I am statement, like I am powerful. It can be I am great at everything I do. It can be I am brilliant. Maybe it's I am beautiful. If you're not comfortable with that, you can say I like my eyes, like starting to notice things about yourself that you appreciate. And then from there, you can take other phrases. But something I often reflect with like classes or retreats is the mantra, I am safe, I am supported. And that is a really powerful one when we're working with nervous system regulation, because again, that if you literally say that to yourself right now, like I am safe, for me, my body relaxes. So
Right.
mantra can be really, really powerful. And like you just said as well about speaking with ourselves, we are mostly water, and water retains memory. And there are studies that have been shown, I think in Japan and other places, where like if you speak positively to water and they studied water, the literal molecules of the water changed compared to like speaking
Mhm.
negatively or ignoring it. And that's similar with plants. If you're speaking to your plants and you're giving them love, well, we're part of nature. So it's the same thing. When I look at my own past of when things were not what they are now, I was very negative and self-deprecating. I look at my skin, my inflammation, like all of the things I was struggling with. And then I look now at where I'm at, like really cultivating a practice of acceptance and speaking kindly to ourselves is one of the most profound tools for helping to really offer support and regulation.
Right. So, it just goes to show, we just need to remind ourselves kind of what space we're in, and we need to be able to step back. But sometimes dealing with those big emotions, we can't step back. And who knows, maybe it's like a really big deal in your business, or it's, a deadline, or and you just feel like you don't have time. I just think that everybody needs to remember that if you don't have your health, you're not going to have time, regardless of what you do, regardless of, how much you achieve today, you might not have tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it sounds all gloom and doom. I'm just being realistic about it. So while we're on the whole like love and light, yes, love and light, it's obviously helpful, it's obviously part of who we are, and like you said, we're connected to nature. But if you want me to talk to you a little bit more harshly in terms of business or time, you're not going to have that time if you don't make time for love and light, or however it is that people want to put it into perspective. I'm all about getting stuff done, but at the same time, if let's say I'm speaking to somebody and they're just kind of, oh, I am no BS, and what is this, I don't know. I'm a millennial, so we get called snowflakes a lot, right? So I'm like, you're being a snowflake. I'm like, well, am I? Or am I just realizing that there's just way more than this, like, BS way of doing things, that where I get to shut out every single instinct that I possibly have, and I just need to like look down and just kind of go with it. I choose not to. I choose to look up. I choose to look around. I think that's like the main takeaway for me out of this conversation so far. It's like, choose to stop, choose to pause, choose to look around, and then kind of work on it. And I'm a very impulsive person. So this coming from me is like, I've had to work through it. I've had to really just kind of be like, pause, don't do that thing that you want to do. Don't say that thing that you want to do, including towards myself, right? Sometimes we're our own worst critics. And I talk to entrepreneurs all day. We are our own worst critics. I talk to very high achieving people all day, every day. It's very hard to get out of that mindset and to not look at yourself that way. It is very easy to compare. I mean, I'm looking just even at this platform. We're streaming to, 8, 9 different channels, and it's so easy. Look at this: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. It's so easy to compare ourselves to other people or to other people's lives, and we forget that sometimes this is all curated. This is what I love about this show, is that we don't edit it, and whatever it is that we say, we take responsibility for, and we put it out there. It's live. Even when we pre-record, it's not edited. It's just a continuous recording that goes on, because this is more of like what real life looks like. Or we talk about the bad parts of our business too. We talk about the stress. We talk about, it's not just about looking educated or knowing like we know what we talk about. It's about having these conversations where we're like, yeah, we get called snowflakes, and and sometimes maybe we get triggered about too many things, but sometimes maybe we're right, because we shouldn't have to go through these systems that were always put in place. Maybe we're the markers of change, right? Sometimes I'm not saying just our generation. I'm talking about different generations as time goes on, right?
So, yeah. And actually, something that's coming to mind as you're reflecting all of this as well is, when we're navigating stress, it's not just like look around and take a deep breath. Like, sometimes things are hitting the fan. Sometimes we're really angry and we're feeling a lot of intense emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. It's meant to be processed out of the body. Something that the Nagoski sisters speak to in their book, Burnout, is...
I love that book. I have to say, love it.
It's so good. And something that they speak to is that when we don't process the full life cycle of that emotion or that response, it gets stuck. It gets stuck in the body. And that's where we get more and more congestion. And using tools like go for a walk. If you're pissed off, get up and go for a walk, or get up and do jumping jacks, or stomp your feet and shake around, or go punch a pillow or yell into a pillow. I don't care. Move the energy, go for a run. Like, there are so many things that we can do to work with the sympathetic response in a way that is healthy, and channeling it out of the body, not projecting it onto someone else or even onto ourselves. And I think that's the part that's really important, because so often we're like, okay, well, I just need to be cool, calm, and collected then. And then we implode. And it's like, no, we don't implode. We're having the full human experience. And some of
Right.
it blissful and relaxing sunshine and rainbows. And sometimes it's like firecrackers. And it's okay to be both. It's being human. So again, it's noticing with a level of curiosity and compassion and discernment to go, okay, right now, this is what I need. Okay, right now, this is what I need, so that we can be, again, our truest self. And yeah, it's just important that we really harness and tap into that. And that's something, again, that I really work with clients on, is recognizing no emotion is bad.
Right.
This like common judgment that anger is bad, fear is bad, blah, 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 shame, whatever. And it's like, they're all just emotion. They're all energy. They all have different charges that they carry based on the story we're attaching to them, because really otherwise they're just a frequency. And once we process it, once we surrender to the anger and we're like, okay, I'm going to stomp and scream and have a temper tantrum for 3 minutes on my own because I need it. Because again, we're we're large children. We still have those same things. I'm going to feel way better. And actually beneath it, I'm going to notice, oh, I actually feel really disappointed about this experience. And I just feel so let down by myself or by this other party or whatever. And I need to just process this. And now I can feel way more at peace. And maybe it's like, okay, now I can take another step to either speak up about it or to have a conversation where we come to some sort of agreement, and maybe there is a forgiveness scenario that's involved with it. So it's really important that we do work with the emotions, and yeah, that we just honor how we feel, and we give ourselves grace, and also, again, context. So
Right.
sometimes we're having a conversation with someone, it's not appropriate for us to like rage yell in front of them or at them. So in those
Right.
moments, it's like, okay, can I be a cool, calm, and collected here and be respectful here? But can I also recognize that I feel like there's a fireworks show happening inside of me, and that when this conversation is done, either I need to take a pause right now and say, I need 5 minutes, or we need to come back to this tomorrow, or conclude the conversation and note to yourself, I now need to go for a walk to move this energy, or I need to go
Right.
stomp my feet or whatever. Because, or maybe you just need to like furiously write. And as you write, it's like you release, and maybe you're crying as you're writing and you're like, I don't even know what the hell's happening. Why am I crying right now? Why am I having this response? But it's just naturally moving whatever is going on in your body out. Because at some point there was something that happened where you felt threatened, you didn't feel safe.
Right.
And ultimately we need to move that out. So you come back to like, I'm safe, I'm here, I'm in control, even if the situation feels so far out of your control at the time.
Right. Right. So just before we keep going, for anybody that's tuning in, you are listening to Negotiating Happiness, and we are live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And some of our shows are also on Roku TV if you want to sit back and watch us on your big screen TV. And I am here with Edie today, and we are talking about mastering stress and burnout. And we just went through a whole list of things on how stress creeps up, what is the stress cycle. We talked a little bit about one of my favorite books, which is Burnout by the Nagoski sisters. And Edie was just telling us on how to practically, after giving us a whole list of tips on how to integrate into our life and how to practically, integrate everything into our schedule. So sometimes if you do need to, take a breather or find a more appropriate moment to deal with it, make sure you do so in order to complete the stress cycle. So that could look like, going for a walk, going for a workout, writing everything out, or just having some reflective time to kind of process, kind of what happened. And I think that's really, really, really important. Before we go on, we have a couple people that have tuned in. So just a reminder, guys, that we are live. So if you have any questions or comments, we're happy to feature anything that's constructive. So we've had a couple people say hi. That's Rehan, and now we've got Julie. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sometimes we get guests from all over the world, which is always exciting to see. So just keep in mind that we are taking questions if you have any, and we're also on Instagram as well. And I've said this before. We have a different soundboard for Instagram. I can't put your question up on the screen, but I can definitely read it out. So don't be discouraged if you are on Instagram. And just to go on, Edie, thank you so much for giving us all of this insight. And, it makes me feel a little bit better to hear that a professional agrees with some of the ideas that I have about, like taking the time to meditate or, taking it seriously, because stress does kill in a lot of ways. And you mentioned disease as well, which is, yes, it's a portion of it is stress. A portion of it is genetics. I think and agreeing that we need to do a bunch of unlearning, because we are in this sort of society that says the hustle culture is the best and you're the best if you're a hustler. And I think slowly everybody's kind of realizing that, who are you hustling for? If you're your own business owner, I get it, you're hustling for yourself, but this is something that I touch on with my clients as well. Work with different small businesses, and typically in the service industry, which requires a lot of your time. It's not, I don't typically work with people that have, let's say production or, manufacturing where other people are dealing. It's typically their time that we're talking about. And I always say, I said, if you can't step away from the business, like the business is running you, you're not running the business. So this has a lot to do with burnout. It's so easy to kind of fall into this cycle of just going, well, if I don't work, I don't get paid, or if I don't work, I can't pay the bills. And I understand this is what everyone does it for, but there are different ways to kind of, like you said, pause and make sure that you complete these stress cycles, and maybe integrate some of these techniques in your schedule, right? Go and take a walk halfway through the day when you're eating your lunch or whatever the case may be, or you think you're not going to make it to that workout, even if it's half the time that you would normally take, just go do it anyway, right? I'm the worst for that, because I have to have like a whole evening off for me to even be like, yes, I can leave the house and go get a workout in at the gym. And that's not really realistic. I don't need a whole evening off, but I would like to take my time, right? So then I make excuses of, well, I'll have to rush. So that's not helpful, but it would be helpful for my stress levels, right?
Yeah.
But I just wanted to also touch base on, Edie as an individual. You're business owner, you're an author, you work one-on-one, you run retreats. You seem like you do it all as well. So you're very aware of these struggles, which I can appreciate. You're also speaking from experience. You're not just sitting here selling a course, right?
No.
Tell us a bit about the happier parts of running it. So I'm assuming that, okay, don't get me wrong, we ran a retreat and it was only for 2 nights, but it was exhausting. However, I found it a lot of fun. Do you also find that a lot of fun?
Oh gosh. I like the back end of being a business owner. There are aspects that I really don't mind, and there are aspects that I'm like, this is mandatory for my business to function.
Right.
For me, like my joy, full body goosebumps. My joy is definitely facilitating retreats, doing the one-on-one coaching support for clients, teaching classes. For me, it's such an honor to witness someone experience a greater moment of peace, to experience a deeper connection with themselves, to have that aha of, whoa, like my hips are so freaking tight and I can actually send breath towards that part of my body, even if I just imagine it in yoga, and it's going to help shift something. And now I just feel way better, and I feel way more flow with my body. And whoa, I had an amazing sleep last night. And it's like, yeah, like it it can be that easy. And it's
Right.
amazing to just share for what has been like the most profound in my own journey of going from the opposite of like so much of crazy hustle and perfectionism and all of the self-doubt, and then also all of the partying and like so many other pieces of like addictive patterns and numbing, whether it was work or working out or dieting or like drinking with friends. Like there's so many things. So shifting from that to this space of so much awareness and responsibility and choosing different practices that might not be the most fun at first, but then you get into it and you're like, oh my God, this is actually so much more amazing because life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I learned that the hard way many times. Um,
Right.
it's amazing to share it. It's amazing to give back to the community. Like I was teaching last night and I literally was sitting at the front of the room and everyone was in the first posture and I just had like silent tears. I was like, oh my God, like this is just such an honor to hold space in this way and to see others show up for themselves and be curious to try these practices and start to have more conversations around like, how am I feeling? What the heck is my body doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, teaching for me is amazing. And retreats, oh my gosh, retreats are the best. Retreats are like so fun because you're getting, whether it's a full day or a full week, it's just this time for you. And part of it is really introspective. And part of it might be really playing with your edge. And you might hate it and you might want to leave, but you're going to stick with it and breathe through it and take care of yourself as you need. And then part of it is really fun because you've gone through that point of what you didn't think you could do. And
Yeah.
then you did it. Like that's what's so cool. Yoga for me was my access point to meditation and then breath work. And for me, it started with recognizing my own power for like holding certain standing postures or arm balances. And now for me, it's like going through the more activated breath work practices where you're like, this is uncomfortable and I can feel everything moving in my body and I want to just stop. But you surrender deeper to that breath and then you come out of it and you're like, I'm so happy I did that. I feel like I just released 5 years of my life. And it's
Right.
amazing what we can do when we're playing in the space of curiosity. And I think that's the other thing that I've had to learn, which maybe you can relate to with what you just shared. Like, yes, part of the retreat planning process might be stressful and hard,
Yeah.
and there are lots of different things that we're coordinating.
Yeah.
But there's also the joy of the experience itself that we're sharing as a group. And then it's really recognizing like, I just did that. Like, look at what I just created for someone else, or look at what I just experienced myself being a participant. Look at what
Yeah.
I've learned, look at what I've gained. Like, it's really beautiful. And it's nice to see that retreats are becoming more of a common choice for people
Mm-hmm.
in terms of scheduling vacation time and being like, okay, instead of going on a vacation where I'm just going to drink my face off and eat junk food, I'm actually going to go and like take time and be at this beautiful resort. And like, yeah, I can order cocktails still and like have a great time, but also I'm going to really tune into like rest and restore while having fun. So when I come back, I do actually feel replenished, not tired and actually needing a proper vacation because I just like sent it in all the forms. Do you know what I mean?
It we're just such victims now as victims. We're also the creators, but also the victims of this really high paced, environment where we get exposed to so many things. So instant gratification is so um, needed in order to, get those feel good, feelings. So that also translates into our vacations, right? So like, I don't have time I gotta do a quick vacation. So I'm just gonna go party it up and I'm gonna get all of my fix and all of this and all that. So it's, we take that not just in social media or in our marketing or in our, we plaster so much information at such a high pace that we then end up taking that in our own life too. Like I'm looking at myself, like I have a 4-year-old. I have a lot of friends who have multiple kids, and I don't understand because they have the same amount of time, right? And they're also complaining about the exact same things. They're just probably running at a much higher stress level than I am. And even I am like, I'm pretty stressed out, but I've got, chiropractor appointment. I've got to work. I've got to drop off at school. Then I got to take him to soccer. Then we're starting swimming. Then we're doing this, and this, and this. And then you're like, okay, but at the same time, it's summer. So we got to go to splash pad. We got to go find an outdoor pool. We went camping, and, like we're just like packing it all in there. And I find that we just don't have the time, or we don't think that we have the time, or we don't make the time to just be like, okay, phones off. We're going to stare into a campfire. We're gonna, stick our feet in this river here and like these beautiful mountains and just take the world in, because we've created such a fast-paced environment, and it's so hard for us to walk away. And especially as a business owner, I have made the mistake, and I just said this recently to a client. I don't know if she's listening. Phil, if you're listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I said I made the mistake of having one phone. And what this means is that I've given access to I love my clients. This isn't why I'm saying it, but I want people to listen to the whole thing. But I gave them access to my text message, to my WhatsApp, to my emails, and to their own own inboxes. So I have a million inboxes that come through, and they have my DMs in Instagram too, and some of them even have my personal Instagram. So I can no longer just focus on that. Yeah, I can't switch off, because I'm also getting my family and friends that text me or get to me through the same channels. And also when I'm trying to check messages from family and friends, the clients are also going into that space, because I've made that mess. I have literally done this to my life. So this is why it's so much easier to balance, and separation becomes harder. And part of it is just because I don't want to pay for a second line. Do you know what I mean? Like part of it is that it is an expense. And at what point does that expense, like the benefit of it outweigh the expense of the actual line? I don't know. I'm still working on that. I'm still figuring it out. I think soon the benefit might outweigh it. And it's not to say that I don't want to check clients or family or friends. It's just that your mind's supposed to have a break.
I think that's a really big part. Your mind is definitely supposed to have a break. And with that too, like I navigated something similar when I was really starting out and wanting to be everywhere for everyone. And then I burnt myself out within the first year of my business. And so now I've become a lot more heavy with my boundaries. And it's like emails you can access through DMs. And then if I'm working with you one-on-one, then there's a WhatsApp option. But I'm not doing text messages. I've had clients that have my business card, so they have my cell number and they'll text me. And then it's like texting me and emailing me about stuff. And I'm like, nope, it needs to be in one place. Right. Because for me, like if I'm getting text messages coming through that are work related on top of these other areas, it's hard enough to stay switched off for certain points of time. So something I do, which might be helpful for you in terms of, again, and anyone listening, just having the pockets of time for yourself. When you go for a walk, can you leave your phone at home for 5 minutes? That's something I intentionally do, where I'm like, how present can I be for myself? Otherwise, my walk is like my phone is with me. It starts out being for me, and then I'm walking and I'm like, oh my God, I need to post this on Instagram. Everyone needs to see this. And then I'm like, I'm not for me now. It's becoming something else. And part of it is that I want to share it, and that's amazing. And also though, what is it like if once a week I go for a walk, or twice a week, or 3 times a week, or once a day, one of those walks, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour, is without my phone? Can I do that? And for me, that has been a game changer. And also starting to switch off more on the weekend, even if it's one weekend day, because I was not ever switching off. Being a business owner, you're always on your business, but there a way that like one day a week, I was like, you know what? I don't need to be all over these platforms. No one's going to die today. And that's, I think, the main thing I had to remember is we get into this idea that like things are life and death. And that goes back to the stress response cycle of like, oh my God, it needed to all be done yesterday. What the heck's happening? And it's like, hold on. It's not brain or heart surgery. No one is actually going to die right now if I don't share a story or if I don't post in this hour.
Yes.
So actually, I need to take 5 minutes for me because I'm not connected and grounded right now. I'm spinning around, and that's creating more challenge than ease for me to actually make an impact in my business.
Also, it's just not operationally efficient. And I talk about this all the time. I talk about batching content. I talk about scheduling it out. Like social media managers, they're great because they take care of all that stuff for you. You don't want to interact with every single comment that goes in because you don't have the time, but you would like to. Great. Get a social media manager or somebody that will do that for you, part of the package. It's just something that your business is going to have to do as it's growing, as you're able to add these costs to your business, because it will make a huge difference operationally. And as you're saying, for your wellness as well. I say this all the time. You shouldn't just be creating content on the go unless it's like, just like a story, but you can put those out later too. Just, you can make a day out of it. And we are trying something right now with me and some of my biz besties where we're just, let's meet up for 1 hour a week and see what kind of ideas we can come up with, what kind of content we want to create, just to have a little bit more cohesiveness, to not have to think about it, to say, oh my God, I didn't think about this all week and now I'm scrambling, or I'm enjoying a walk with my 4-year-old, but I have to like post a bunch of things. That's not realistic. And for somebody like me, like if my child's at daycare or at school, I can't leave my phone at home, but I could for sure put it on silent and enjoy 5 minutes. And when the 5 minutes is over, I can, come back to it. Can I leave without my phone? No, but I can implement that same idea where you're like, okay, but you have to keep those boundaries with yourself too. And it's so funny because we all have such great intentions, but we just never have the follow through. And that happens operationally too with all of my clients too. It's just funny how that all translates. So once you start working on that, I feel like every single area of your life improves, right? So like operations with me and wellness with you, and, marketing. That marketing is another huge thing of, we have all of the best intentions to put out strategy that makes sense, and then we never follow through with some of it, right? Or we think we're going to launch all these things and then there's no follow through. I'm very guilty of that. I still have a quiz for everybody that I have not launched, and it's been ready for probably 8 months now, so stay tuned. But so we're just almost at the top of the hour here, so again, we could probably have many conversations about this. I just, one last quick question is, I want to know what makes Edie happy. I don't want to know about how you love to help people because it's very obvious through your work. I want to know, like, what are your hobbies? Like, what do you like to do when you're not in this space? We want to know about personal things because we want to get to know Edie as a person. And sometimes entrepreneurs don't think about that because they're too focused on their work and their life and their family and their,
Yeah. And I totally lost myself to that when I started my business. I love dancing. Dancing is that, like, my soul is happiest. I love hiking. I really love being in nature, being by the water, being in a forest is really grounding for me.
I like that too.
Yeah, so good. I love curling up with a good book and just chilling or watching something on Netflix in the evening to decompress sometimes. I really enjoy baking without recipes and just kind of winging it and seeing what I create. I also love traveling. So whether it's going, like, I haven't been to Europe in a while, but whether it is Europe or whether it's more of a tropical location, I spent part of the winter in 2023 in Costa Rica, and that was totally magical. So that's something I appreciate with my business is the remote aspect and being able to tie in some of the retreats where I offer them or workshops with vacation or just working remote, because I really do love exploring new places and meeting new people and experiencing new cultures. Yeah, those are probably
amazing. It's just always great to learn a little bit about, who is Edie, and I always love that I can relate to a lot of those things. I love traveling too, and I love just, again, being in nature. So that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been really great. I wanted to point out again that if ever anybody wants to go ahead and check out the retreat, I highly suggest it. Let me post the link again right now.
Yes, Equilibrium Retreat in Mexico is November 16th to 23rd, and we have 3 spots left. Yeah. And you can access it on my website.
Here, guys, take a quick look. And even if you're looking through the archives and you're hearing this, you can still see it on any of the 8 or 9 different platforms that we've posted it on. You'll see it there. Check out Edie Gudaitis Wellness, and follow Edie on YouTube. She does a lot of yoga videos. Anybody that's a yoga fan, I checked out a couple of them. They're awesome. So thank you again so much, and we hope to have you back.
Yeah,
come back in a couple of months and tell us about how the retreat went and whatnot. I'd love to hear about it. Yes. And thank you all for tuning into the show. We always love to hear from you, and to everybody at the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network for the platform. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.